Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a fascinating, honestly almost hidden narrative that was buried within the June 5th edition of the Tech Reader AI Digest. We are going to follow the breadcrumbs of AI regulation, and we're pulling data directly from industry reports, federal bills, and open source updates. What we uncover today about the race to regulate artificial intelligence, well, it might just completely change how you view the entire tech industry. Okay, let's dive right into this. At the very center of our analysis today sits a massive paradox. Think about it. Why would a company urgently ask for a global slowdown in artificial intelligence while simultaneously racing ahead at absolute breakneck speed? This is the central paradox we are seeing right now from frontier AI labs, and specifically from Anthropic.
To really wrap our heads around this, just look at the incredible contrast from a single week in early June. On Thursday, Anthropic published a report called When AI Builds Itself. In it, they issued a really stark warning about the dangers of recursive self-improvement. You know, that theoretical threshold where an AI system can autonomously design its own smarter successor. They literally suggested a global slowdown might be necessary. But that exact same week, they quietly filed a confidential S-1 for an October IPO, revealing a jaw-dropping annualized revenue run rate of approximately $47 billion. It's a stunning juxtaposition, right? Let's look at what's actually driving this.
Section 1. AI warnings versus IPO pitch.
So what is actually anchoring that $47 billion valuation we just talked about? Well, Anthropic put some staggering internal production metrics on the public record within that very same safety report to justify it. The absolutely crucial number is 80%. According to their own data from May, more than 80% of the code currently merged into their codebase is authored by their own AI, Claude. Because of this autonomous assistance, their human engineers are now shipping about 8 times as much code per quarter as they did just a few years ago. The feedback loop of AI writing AI, it isn't just theory anymore. It is very real, and it's driving their entire business. What's really interesting here is the sheer scale of the technological leap. Just a year ago, Anthropic reported a 3x code optimization improvement using their models. Today, using their new Mythos preview, they're boasting a massive 52 times code optimization benchmark. The main takeaway is that they are highly publicizing this massive engineering advantage to their investors, all while turning around and telling world's governments that the broader industry urgently needs coordinated limitations. And this perfectly illustrates a concept highlighted by tech analyst Aaron Rose in his digest, The Regulatory Moat. His key insight is that this existential safety warning is actually a brilliant business strategy. If you advocate for a global pause or incredibly strict compliance rules, you effectively lock out smaller, open-source competitors who simply lack the billions of dollars required to comply. Anthropic gets to advocate for a freeze, while their own AI is already writing 80% of their codebase, effectively cementing a lead that nobody can catch up to. Section 2. The Federal AI Freeze. Now, to see where these restrictive rules are currently being written, we have to shift our focus away from the tech labs and look over at Washington, D.C. And honestly, the timeline is the story here. Look at how incredibly fast this moved over just 2 weeks. On May 21st, the White House killed a proposed voluntary 90-day federal review window for AI. On June 2nd, a watered-down 30-day window was signed quietly by the president. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, just 2 days later, on June 4th, boom, a massive 269-page bipartisan bill drops, the Great American Artificial Intelligence Act of 2026. This proves how rapidly the tech industry managed to kill a voluntary pause and immediately replace it with a comprehensive federal preemption bill. Now, the precise legal nuance of that massive bill is absolutely critical to understand. It proposes a 3-year freeze preempting any state laws that regulate how AI models are developed, but, and this is a big but, it carefully preserves state rules on how AI is deployed or used. This means states can regulate what AI does to their residents, like deepfakes or hiring algorithms for sure, but they cannot legally regulate how these trillion-dollar frontier labs build their core models for the next 3 years. Naturally, a move this sweeping has sparked some immediate and fierce pushback. The reaction from major labor unions has been exceptionally severe. The AFL-CIO, the American Federation of Teachers, and the Association of Flight Attendants released a joint statement saying, and I quote, "Hard no. This bill is a giveaway to the AI industry and a handful of trillion-dollar companies at the expense of American workers. It really sets up a clear, undeniable dividing line between the corporate tech sector and organized labor over who truly benefits from this legislation." Section 3. The State-Level Rebellion. So you might be wondering, why did Congress feel forced to drop this massive, complex bill right now? Well, it's because enterprise legal teams at these tech companies are facing an impending compliance nightmare on the micro level. State legislatures are not waiting around for Washington to figure it out. Vermont just passed a bill banning AI therapy bots. Illinois lawmakers just sent 5 different AI bills to their governor, covering everything from hiring to healthcare. And California currently has 30 separate AI bills moving through second chamber committees. It is rapidly becoming a highly fragmented, chaotic patchwork of local regulations that are just impossible to navigate uniformly.
And we really can't ignore the deeply human element driving this state-level action, particularly in Vermont. Their therapy bot ban is the very first outright state prohibition targeting AI systems marketed as mental health tools without clinical disclaimers. It wasn't arbitrary at all. It was driven by documented harm to vulnerable adolescents who are forming deep dependency relationships with these AI companions. Real, localized human impact sparked these laws. But ironically enough, this well-intentioned state-level action is exactly what gave Congress the perfect excuse to push for that uniform national standard we were just talking about.
Section 4. The Developer Underground. Because while the corporate giants and government regulators are battling over top-down slowdowns and 3-year freezes, an entirely different reality is playing out on the ground. Independent local tools are quietly releasing massive efficiency updates for everyday developers. Llama just released version 0.30, enabling Vulkan by default and pushing 20% faster throughput. LM Studio released version 1.85 with a disk-backed KV cache that results in 80% lower RAM usage and double the throughput for complex workflows. The grassroots developers are not slowing down one bit. Their tools are just getting leaner faster and way more accessible to run right on your laptop. So, tying all these breadcrumbs together, we arrive at Aaron Rose's core conclusion from the digest. The direction of travel is clear. Federal preemption is coming. The only question is the terms. The chaos of 50 different states passing 50 different AI laws, driven by very real concerns like Vermont's therapy bot ban, is perfectly handing Congress the exact excuse it needs to freeze AI development regulations on behalf of the tech giants. Which leaves us with one final, absolutely critical thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. When we look at Anthropic leveraging an 80% AI-written codebase into a $47 billion IPO while simultaneously calling for a pause, and we see Congress rushing to freeze state-level development laws, who actually wins when we pause AI? Do these regulatory modes truly protect the public from existential threats, or are they just brilliantly disguised mechanisms to protect incumbent monopolies from grassroots competition? Think about that as you follow the news this week. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.